Hey guys, we are back updating the power rankings for the Amazing Race 35 following episode 6, and this was a mostly standard episode, nothing too crazy to report here, although there were some interesting results that made this list a bit interesting to consider, though I still feel like the contenders remain largely the same, but there are 9 teams to look at, and let's not waste any more time, let's get right into the video. So starting off at number 9, we have the boots from this week, and here we have Liam and Jeremy. And I thought they were a mostly likable team where they talked quite a bit about their background and how they didn't have the best relationship in the past. However, I never really found them to be that great of racers where they were pretty consistently in the back of the pack, and I thought they were pretty destined to be an early boot here. Now, there was that one glimmer a couple episodes ago where I thought maybe they could have taken the role of Joe and Ian and being these underdogs, though I found that they quickly fell back down to earth, and sure enough, they were the boots here. And again, I don't find their boot too surprising here, especially on this leg where they were mostly in the back of the pack. They fell to last place at the detour and they never really recovered from there, which is why they're here at number 9. And with that, there are 8 teams left in the race to talk about, and as usual, I'll be ranking them based on how likely I think they are to win the race. And at number 8, I did decide to go with Andrea and Molena, who did kind of fall back to earth here, where they came into the leg with a 4th place start. Of course, they obviously did all right during the first tasks there. However, they really struggled during the detour, falling all the way to 7th place. And while they did kind of get back in the swing of things by the roadblock, they kind of fell back down again by the end of it, finishing in 6th place. So again, a mostly middling performance here. And again, I feel like my view of them on the whole is that they're not that great of racers, and I feel like they don't have too many strong results to show for it, which is why they're here at number 8. Now moving on to number 7, and we have a team that I was a little higher on in the last couple weeks, but I feel like this leg was particularly bad for them. And here we have Robin and Chelsea, and obviously they did pretty poorly here, finishing second to last. And they were pretty consistently in the back of the pack during most of the leg here, starting off in 7th place, but then falling to 8th by the detour and really just remained there for the rest of the leg. They also came one vote away from getting U-turned, which, considering how they were, I feel like that would have been the difference there in terms of whether they would have gotten eliminated or not. And in general, I find them to, again, be a pretty middling team. The reason I had them above Andrea and Molena is that I feel like they have gotten a bit more focus on the show, to where I feel like they could have a deeper run because of that, as they're more of a focus on the show. But again, I still find them to be mostly mediocre racers, which is why they're here at number 7. Now moving on to number 6, and while I find this team to be mostly inconsistent, they actually did all right across this leg. And here we have Morgan and Lena here, who did actually start the leg in last place. However, they were able to make up some ground where they were able to do well on the rickshaw task that allowed them to jump up to 7th place, and they did pretty well during the detour, resulting in them going from 7th to 5th. And they were able to do all right, staying in the middle of the pack. They even managed to squeak out a 4th place finish across this leg. So again, not a terrible leg considering where they started, but I still find them to be pretty high variance racers, and it wouldn't shock me if in the future they're prone to future downturns. But again, this was still a mostly good leg for them, which is why they're here at number 6. Now moving on to number 5, and this team actually did pretty well here across this leg. And here we have Joel and Garrett. And again, they did pretty well here. They started off in 3rd place and they managed to finish with a 3rd place finish by the end of it. They did fall to 4th place during the window and rucksaw tasks, and they also fell to 4th at the end of the detour, and they even managed to get up to 2nd place by the end of the roadblock, but fell to 3rd place due to Robin and Corey passing them. But it was still a mostly consistent leg from them, and I feel like they are doing pretty well, all things considered. But again, I feel like they're still not the strongest team overall, to where I would need to see a bit more from them if I want them to be higher. But again, it was still a solid leg for them, which is why they're here at number 5. Now moving on to number 4, and I feel like this was mostly due to their placement on this particular leg, though it wouldn't shock me if this team found themselves in the top of the pack come the next leg. And here we have Steve and Anna Lee, who obviously have a very rocky leg here, namely due to the fact that they were U-turned, or due to their strong performance in recent weeks that put this target on their back to where they were ultimately U-turned. And I actually found it impressive how they were able to do pretty well on the first side of the detour. However, they didn't make a mistake that cost them a lot of time, causing them to fall all the way to 6th place by the end of it. And they were able to hold on during the rest of the leg, like holding on to their 6th place finish, only to fall behind to Andrea and Molena on the way to the pit stop, giving them a 7th place finish. So on paper, again, obviously it's a pretty bad leg, though I was still kind of impressed with the way they managed to hold on, even with this setback that they got. But again, I feel like for now, I do have to drop them here to number 4. Now moving on to number 3, and this team also had a very solid leg, and we actually have the winners of this leg, and it's Greg and John, who obviously end up winning the leg here, starting off in 2nd place, doing pretty well up until Detour, staying in 2nd place. Through the detour, they're able to jump into 1st, and they're able to hold that position for the remainder of the leg. Again, very solid finish, all things considered, and I'm glad that they were able to notch a win here. But again, I feel like they're still a team that I just get the vibe that they are going to be like this losing finalist team, or a team that's going to make a deep run but have some shortcomings along the way. I still worry that they're prone to making plenty of mistakes, and I feel like their edit just doesn't justify me overcoming a lot of those setbacks, which is why I don't have them at the top of the pack here. But I still feel like they're a solid team, one of the better teams across the season, which is why they're here at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and this team feels kind of similar to me, but this team did have a more impressive performance across the leg, and here we have Rob and Corey, who started off in 6th place, not a great spot, and they aren't in the best spot early on in the leg. However, through the detour, they're able to jump from 6th place all the way to 2nd, and they were able to remain in a solid position for most of the rest of the leg there. And while they do fall to 3rd at the end of the roadblock, they're able to surpass Joel and Garrett on the way to the pit stop, allowing them to get a 2nd place finish. I feel like they're a team that's been getting more focus in the edit compared to Greg and John, which is why I have more confidence in them to potentially win. But I still feel like as a team, they're probably a team that's going to have similar issues, and a team that's been prone to being high variance, to where even though they are going to make a deep run, I do worry that they could ultimately come up short by the end of the race, given their setbacks there, which is why I do have them here at number 2. And now at number 1, the team I believe is the most likely to win the Amazing Race 35 is still Todd and Ashley. Now, I did consider putting them lower, considering that this leg wasn't the best for them. They started off in 5th place, and they did have a bit of bumpiness here where they did get up to 3rd place by the end of the detour, 4th place at the start of the roadblock, but they ultimately fall back down to 5th place there by the end of the leg. However, we still got plenty of focus for them in the edit, and while it wasn't necessarily positive content where a lot of it was focusing on them not like being on the same page, I still feel like that gives me confidence that they are going to be the main characters of the season, and I feel like that's going to make them major characters going down the stretch. That's why, despite their performance not being as strong as people like Greg and John or Rob and Corey, I still feel like they're going to be a team that at least is going to be presented as contenders, and I could see them being in a world where they're at the end with like Rob and Corey or Greg and John, and through that they're sort of being seen as underdogs, and they're ultimately able to overcome that. So that's why I continue to give them the benefit of the doubt. Though if we start to see more holes in their race or their edit moving forward, I may drop them down. But for now, I do have them here at number 1. And there we go, that will do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, really helps out with the channel. And I'll be back again next week to update the power rankings again, so you can stay tuned for that. I am covering Survivor 45, Survivor UK, and wrapping up my coverage of BB25 not too long from now, so you can stay tuned for that. I'm on Patreon now, so if you want to consider supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. And if you haven't already, you can also join the Discord server by clicking the link in the description. There's a lot of stuff coming your way, but for now, that is a video. See ya.